The greatest repositories of human creativity, interests, and just the deepest intricacies of who we are have only been created in the past 30 years or so, which is an insane fact I think is severely underrated in our modern world. I've always been adamant that everything in reality is connected by some kind of thread, whether it's basic causality or something else. But the fascinating truth is that we as humans have built out those connecting threads in an exponential fashion via the creation of the internet, and then with all the virtual realms inside of it that have come to essentially host human lives taking place on it. It all serves as undeniably the largest record of existence that can be currently traced. Like, not even just human existence, all existence as we've been able to extrapolate so far. That being said, it's no surprise a good chunk of such a grand library is comprised of media that humanity has made, consumed, and passed down throughout our inception. Everything from music to film to TV shows to what's essentially a recent invention in modern video games, you name it. So much of it, to be perfectly blunt, means so much to the people of this world who have invested themselves in art, ideas, or just anything creative, both on the creation side and the consumption side. The nature of our stories and just the things which speak so deeply to our most intimate selves, well, that's a resonance we're profoundly attached to. It's something we seek to keep going as far as we can across time. That's why I feel it's only natural so much of our conversations, our deeper online discourse around media preservation are starting to reach a fever pitch these days. Time is only going to move forward, and God willing human civilization continues to exist. The sheer amount of media as it exists in the world will only continue to increase. The number of things we want to hang on to indefinitely won't be dwindling anytime soon. Now, so many of us have heard all the talking points of the physical versus digital debate for basically years now. We hear all the time of how digital media is an illusion because you don't actually own anything, and how more and more stuff essentially only exists within the confines of certain virtual spaces, which can be shut down or deleted forever in some way or form. Couple this with the refusal of companies in multiple genres to offer physical versions of content people actually love, whether it's film content, TV seasons, games, heck, even books. And you have a world where the literal, tangible items representing people's passions is becoming rarer. All the while, digital exists as unreliable given the lack of control by consumers. All of this has been talked about to death, and rightfully so, to the point where many media preservation initiatives, libraries archiving and storing content that is, have sprung up and are being run by people who simply care enough to do so. And while I always love hearing that another is underway, I can't help but feel this entire topic is such a tragic human pursuit. Like, truly, this is something I think about more and more the older I get. Because there's a truth I feel many of us have missed in our discourse. The reality of preserving media in our modern world is that despite our best efforts, whether we're chronicling digital items, hunting down retro trinkets for a huge collection, or something in between, at some point, the sheer amount of data, physical or digital, will become too much to keep track of. If that sounds like a minuscule issue, believe me when I say I'm talking over the course of several centuries here. Like I said, it's because of what this stuff means to humanity. We want to hold on to everything we can for as long as we can. But even if we were to perfectly achieve that for 100 years, and then another 100 years, and then another, it would greatly hinge on passing that duty on to whatever generations of humans succeed us. And even if they were up to the task, the likelihood is that something will get lost in the cracks as these libraries inevitably become massive. What's even more tragic is that even if you say we'll create technology adept at storing that much data, we need to acknowledge an uncomfortable reality about ourselves. It's the likelihood that as the years go by, maybe even millennia, there's no guarantee that our successors will even care about the media they're supposedly protecting. I mean, think about it. To some degree, why would they? why would it mean anything to some of them? Me and so many of you watching this probably have memories with certain stories and art that bring us to tears. But in the future, who's to say it's not just blank expressions from people who are only told that this stuff isn't important to humanity? In that scenario, where a piece of art's existence is barely acknowledged by those around it, does it even exist at all? I, like a lot of you, would say yes. I believe even if no one cares, the sanctity of it remains. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge that it will exist differently, in a more stagnant way, you could argue. In a way where they're just sitting in some archive and stasis for eternity. Undoubtedly, there will be individual pieces of data that will never be interacted with in any meaningful way, simply because all the humans who are left have no desire to do so. It's a situation where no matter how you slice it, physical or digital, something will be completely lost to time eventually, or at the very least, existentially overlooked. And the even crazier thing is that none of this is limited to just consumption-based media. It's not merely the things which entertain and stimulate us, it's also the personal, intimate media that tells the stories of our lives as people. It's the photos and videos we have of our loved ones, of media chronicling priceless memories of experiences. Whether it ever gets read by others or not, it's the existence of personal journals and diaries that convey years of deep thoughts and slow reflections. All of these things contribute to the overwhelming mountain of media and artistry among humanity. They symbolize that someone once tried to make the most of their existence, even if it was with mixed results. And so this issue of inevitably losing some of those stories applies to the personal stuff too, I think. It applies to even the stuff that doesn't have a presence on the mass communication scale. So the question is, what do we do about all this? I think for some people it would be easy to go the nihilistic route and say our attempts at preserving things is wholly futile in the end. But despite how tragic all this is, I'm not of the belief any of us should stop trying to add life to art for the sake of pushing it forward. It's true. As the world outlives us, we'll have less and less control over how our descendants may honor ancestral media, or whether they'll even pass the torch at all. But I think even in having to confront that hard truth, we as a species should still bare our hearts and souls for our work regardless, even if it inevitably drifts away beyond sentient comprehension someday. Even if there's not a trace of it left to be found, I think we should still manifest as many good things in this world as we can. I think we should keep making libraries that capture our imaginations. Again, that goes for all media. Everything from weird books to unconventional music to films to video games, in both physical and digital forms. This may not be the most clever analogy, but I kind of think of preserving media across time as akin to skipping a rock across water. Inevitably, it will sink at some point, but the fun is in seeing how far you can take it before that happens, I look around at my own life, and honestly, I see a mesh of both physical and digital items that are important to me alike. I collect mostly physical versions of my games, whereas most of my music is digital, minus a few favorite soundtracks I have physical versions of. Same thing with reading too. I have a ton of articles saved on my phone I personally find interesting, but I also have a few physical books I really wanted to touch with my own two hands in front of me. At some point, whether it's 100 years or 5,000 years from now, the literal matter that makes up those physical items will wither away into nothing, no matter how well maintained they are or how many copies of them are made. Same goes for data corruption in the virtual world. The easy message here is that nothing lasts forever, sure, but something else I'm thinking of at the moment is, as we go down this road of preserving what is finite, let's just make sure to truly appreciate as much of the artistry as we can while we're still here. Don't just let it collect dust and hold on to it just for the sake of holding on to it. Build on the inspiration it leaves you with. If a work resonates with you, take that feeling and apply it to something new that may resonate with someone or something else. Everything that is made will one day cease to be in some fashion. But that doesn't mean its existence can't lead to something good. I just think we should believe in that, even for the simple media projects that don't get a ton of attention. As the centuries and millennia go by, there's always a chance that some unexpected game or movie or song or story gets perceived by a human who needs to see it and be inspired by it. It's something you ironically do see in post-apocalyptic stories of people rediscovering old societies and the contents of them. Except in the real world, like I implied earlier, it will be the remnants of the biggest archives storing humanity's history in essence right now. Eventually, the universe will move on to something else. But I at least think what we're creating now has a good chance of touching things in it for the better. So let's just have a good time while that happens and enjoy what becomes of it. To close out this video, since we're on the subject of all this media stuff, it actually might be worth mentioning that I actually do have my own writings in the form of 2 books that I made available for free for people to just buy digitally pretty easily, and the physical versions of them are actually pretty cheap. But yeah, I'm not really good with self-promotions, but despite that, I actually really did write these 2 books with the intention of, hopefully having them resonate with someone on this planet, and hopefully just spreading some ideas that I find interesting. These 2 books are basically compilations on a variety of think pieces relating to different layers of the human condition and ideas relating to the universe that are very opinionated, but not pretentious. At least I would hope not. That's kind of what I was going for with these writings. A good chunk of the stuff in here covers stuff like consciousness, spirituality, technology and how it's affecting our humanity, where humanity might end up in the next couple millennia, stuff like that. So if anyone's interested in that kind of stuff, I've actually started including the links to these books in the description of all my videos, which you could pretty easily access. Again, the digital versions of them are all free, minus Amazon, because I wasn't allowed to make them free on Amazon, so that version is just 99 cents. But all the other storefronts like Barnes & Noble's, Apple, those storefronts are free. And the physical versions of these books, yeah, they're pretty cheap. They're like, I think, less than $10. But yeah, who knows what the life cycle of my writing will be in this world. But like I said, it's all finite. And while it's here, I'm just going to try to do my part in hopefully putting something good out into the world and hopefully having it resonate with someone. So if that happens to be you, then thanks. Hopefully you enjoy it.